Gen Z men are the loneliest and brokest generation of men that we have ever seen. Some people are calling this phenomenon an epidemic. But the situation is worse than you think, because a broke and lonely man doesn't just lose money. He loses his confidence, he loses his ability to be social, he loses his ambition, and eventually he loses his hope. But the crazy thing is it's not their fault. There have been systematic situations in the past that has led up to this point, and in this video we're going to go over those factors, and the farther we progress, the worse things are going to get. And then you will really understand why Gen Z men are broke and lonely. The first factor, and the most controversial, is woman empowerment. The relationship style back in the day used to work. Whether you agreed with it or not, women took care of everything in the house, men took care of everything outside of the house. Women took care of childcare, cooking, and cleaning. Men worked, they paid the bills, and if something needed fixed, they fixed it. That system worked. But women were not satisfied with this. They wanted more. They wanted education. They wanted to be able to vote. They wanted equality when it came to credit. They wanted equality when it came to the job market. They wanted to be independent outside of a male household, and that's what they got. But this changes the dynamic of a relationship, because women are still looked to take care of everything inside the house. However, outside the house, women are also providing financially for the household as well, just like men are. And so women are looking at this and saying, I would rather be single than get in a relationship where I have to pay the bills, take care of the kids, take care of the household, cook, and clean. And so this is one of the major reasons why women aren't having kids, why women aren't having relationships, because women still want a man to provide. They want somebody who earns more than them. They want somebody who can take care of them. However, this dynamic of women wanting equal pay shrinks the pool of men that are acceptable to them, because most men are not making 2 times as much money as women nowadays. And this gets even worse when we discuss number 2, romance inequality online and isolation through social media. More than half of Americans use a dating app to find a partner nowadays compared to face-to-face. Back in the day, face-to-face meant that you only had the availability for a partnership in your local area. Now with dating apps and social media, you have access to millions and millions of people, and social media makes this situation lopsided for women. If we take an average man and an average woman gets 10 times more likes than the average male. This gives an average woman, based on societal attractiveness, the incentive that she is more attractive than the average man. So this skews the amount of men that are acceptable for women even farther, because now you have to be more attractive than the woman partner based on dating apps, and you also have to be earning more money than them. And the data shows this: 57% of men who use dating apps said they received too few messages, compared to only 24% of women. And so if young men have this situation where they aren't able to find a partner because things are unrealistic for them, this makes them more isolated and less likely to hang out with friends. 60% of people between 15 and 24 say that they interact with their friends most often outside of school through social media, and time spent with friends between 2003 and 2020 fell by 70% for men who are aged between 15 and 24. So while men are getting into less relationships and having less friends, something else major is happening. Their career path to success is fading away as well. Getting us into number 3, the decline of the traditional male career path. You see, previous generations of men had a simple path. You went to high school and then you got a job, construction, mining, and you progressively got enough money and enough raises to support a family. But that type of career path for men doesn't exist anymore. Over the past 4 decades, a couple things have happened. 1, manufacturing jobs have moved overseas. 2, they've been automated. Millions of jobs that men usually fill have been taken away from them, and unions have declined as well, specifically starting in the 1980s, when we saw companies prioritize shareholder profit compared to employees in their best interest. And since this shift of manufacturing moving away, we have seen the economy shift as well to healthcare, education, and professional services, places that women mostly dominate, specifically because they get higher education more often compared to men. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects predicts that healthcare and social assistance will add roughly 2 million jobs between 2024 and 2034. And this causes a problem for men outside of income, because the old way, when men went to high school and then went into manufacturing after, provided men with status, friendships, and a sense of usefulness. And when stable work becomes harder to access, this can spread into their lives, into their relationships, into their friendships, and into their mental health. This just gets worse with number 4, cost of living, because everything across the board, housing, transportation, food, has increased adjusted for inflation and is outpacing wages. Right now, on average, if a male wants to provide for his family of 4, he needs a salary of $130 or more to be able to do that. You cannot survive by yourself in these times unless you are making over 6 figures. If you can barely afford to live, how can you afford to go out and do things with your friends? How can you afford to have a girlfriend and be able to provide for that girlfriend? The situation of the economy is bogging down Gen Z men financially, which is also bogging down their social life. So things are just stacking on top of each other and making the situation even worse, which is causing the mental health crisis that Gen Z men are going through. Which gets us to the worst of them all, number 5, the debt crisis. Student loan debt, credit card debt, and buy now, pay later debt is out of control. It used to be you could go to college, you could get a degree, and that degree would pay off the debt that you had for college. That is not the case anymore. And when you have this debt and when you're not able to afford things, you rely on credit cards. Gen Z has the most credit card debt than any other generation because they can't afford anything, and so the only way they can afford stuff is to borrow money. But they can't pay that borrowed money off because they couldn't afford the thing in the first place. So Gen Z has taken on more debt at a younger age in a worse job market than any other generation in history. So Gen Z men are just fucked in this economy. And all these stack on each other, starting with debt. If you go to college, which is the normal now, you get debt from that. You get out of college, you can't get a job. And so you can't afford stuff because the price of living is so high compared to wages. And so you have to get a credit card to be able to afford stuff. That credit card starts to add up. You can't pay that credit card off because you still don't have adequate work to pay for your living situation. Since you can't pay for your living situation, you can't go out and do stuff with friends, with a girlfriend. You can't provide. If you can't provide, women don't want to be with you because they see you as inadequate. You can't have a good social life because you can't go out with friends and get a beer and do stuff. And what does this cause? This causes immense amount of isolation, loneliness, and financial struggle. And all this equates and equals young men having huge mental issues because the system has fucked them years before they were even born.